China's economy is silently, yet certainly, collapsing. If you walk through the towns, the factory zones that were once bustling are now as silent as graveyards. Production suspended signs hang on factory gates, machines inside are gathering dust, and not a single worker can be seen. In local government industrial parks, new factories built with subsidies are turning into ruins after just a few years. In the early 2020s, the Chinese government pushed to become a manufacturing superpower, rushing construction nationwide. However, many of these were paper factories with no substance, built only for subsidies and abandoned with zero operational record. Unemployed workers drift from city to city seeking re-employment, but it is the same everywhere. Job sites are not updated, and companies display hiring signs while actually hiring no one. Unpaid wages, no severance pay, and CEOs who can't be reached. Not bankruptcy, but evaporation. That is the reality of China today. At one factory, hundreds of employees lost their jobs overnight. Company A fled in the night, leaving behind only an unopenable safe and unpaid salary slips. Where is the boss? The worker shouts emptily in the deserted factory ruins. This scene is the same in Guangdong, Zhejiang, and Liaoning. The country once called the world's factory is now mass-producing closed factories. Meanwhile, in city centers, the closing of restaurants and cafes won't stop. Owners who believed the economy would return after the pandemic are now vanishing one after another. On social media, posts about owner fled, shopkeeper missing are endless. The employees left behind complain of unpaid wages, but the police dismiss them, saying it's a civil matter. Civil matter means nobody will help you. The economic collapse may be hard to see in the numbers, but it appears clearly in the city's atmosphere. Even in the daytime, pedestrians are sparse. Shopping malls are lined with empty stores, and tenant wanted signs stand out everywhere. Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, the word vitality has vanished from every city. On the other hand, prices are quietly rising. Food, of course, but also rent, utilities, and even tuition fees. Wages drop, but living costs don't. Voices flood the internet saying, "We can't survive like this." In this country, no one will help you. Local governments, companies, and banks are all too busy with themselves. It's like they are dragging each other down on a sinking ship. Who will survive? All of China is now inside that question. China's collapse isn't just about factories. Restaurants, supermarkets, cram schools, real estate agencies, every industry is falling, one after another. It is as if a giant sandcastle is being swallowed by the tide and crumbling away. The era called the China Dream is over. Now, only the practical question of how to survive remains. Looking over the town, the night neons are sparse and fatigue is etched on people's faces. Salaries dropped. Bonuses vanished. My boss suddenly disappeared. Such words are heard everywhere in China now. In Guangzhou, major corporate layoffs happened in succession. Outside office buildings, people overflowed holding cardboard boxes, and young people spread resumes in cafes. Social media is lined with posts asking, "How should I live starting tomorrow?" One young man spoke in front of a camera. "I had a dream when I came here, but now living has become the dream." These words tell the reality of the entire country. According to the Chinese government's official announcement in 2025, the youth unemployment rate is 18.9%. However, it is said the actual figure exceeds double that. Over 100 million young people cannot find jobs. This is the reality. In the real estate industry chain, bankruptcies continue, triggered by the collapse of giants. In Shanghai, signs of major real estate firms are removed at night, and employees learn the company is gone only when they arrive the next morning. People who bought homes are also in a vortex of despair. Housing prices keep falling, and the dream home of the past has turned into heavy debt. One man says, "I bought a home for 2.5 million yuan in 2019. 5 years later, its value is only 1.6 million yuan. Selling is a loss. Keeping it is hell. What should I do?" This symbolizes the suffering facing China's middle class. families moving because they can't pay rent, young people giving up cars because they can't pay loans, and people muttering they can no longer believe in anything. The middle class that supported the country's prosperity is quietly crumbling. That shock eventually turned into a wave of poverty covering the whole nation. The illusion of an academic society and a growth nation has now completely collapsed. Still, the government keeps saying the economy is stable. On the news, smiling politicians puff out their chests, saying this year's growth rate achieved its target. But no one reports the number of people crying behind them. China's economy is still moving on paper, but reality has already started to stop. A decrease in transactions, corporate bankruptcies, and a halt in bank lending. If this continues, the flow of funds itself will stop. If that happens, the economy can no longer breathe. People are still working just to live for today. Savings decrease, credit vanishes, and dreams are far away. Yet, no one can run away, because wherever they go, it is the same hell. On social media, voices of despair are posted daily. Can't find a job, no money, can't go home. Such screams symbolize China today. Many urban workers are pushed to their absolute limits, earning 3,000 yuan but paying 2,000 for rent. Skipping lunch and eating only instant noodles at night has become the norm. Working remains poor, saving leads to loss, and fleeing attracts surveillance. This triple despair now dominates China. The situation in the countryside is also grave. In villages in Henan and Hunan, migrant workers return to find no jobs. The son, working in the city, once the family's pride, is now a financial burden. I came back, but I have no fields. Instead of joy, the rural elderly look anxious at their son's return, saying, "There is no place for you to work here either." Yet, they cannot go back to the city because both housing and jobs are already gone. Meanwhile, unfamiliar sights have multiplied on regional streets. Stalls with signs reading "former civil servant," "former teacher," or "former office worker" are lined up. The figures of those walking this second life are somewhat desperate and sad. Titles that were once their pride have turned into mere signboards. Still, they say, this is the only way to survive. Young people leave the cities. The middle-aged lose their livelihoods, and the elderly just wait for pensions. The word growth has vanished, leaving a society that only knows how to endure. The word future has disappeared from conversations. No salary again this week. My electricity was cut off. I can't buy milk for my child. This is daily life in China in 2025. The state remains silent. The government manipulates the numbers, and people keep screaming on social media. But even those screams are deleted within hours. A silence named censorship is putting a lid on despair. Speaking reality has become a crime in China. Post and be deleted. Upload a video and be suspended. Those speaking truth are erased, leaving only those who lie. Consequently, the whole nation is infected with a disease of believing nothing. Everyone chooses just to survive today while harboring anxiety. Tomorrow will be worse. That is the common understanding. No one speaks of dreams or hope anymore. Still, life goes on. On a night stall street, an old couple grills man two, and next to them, a boy plays guitar, singing in front of a small paper cup. That might be the only shape of hope in China now. The economic collapse is no longer limited to specific industries. It is beginning to destroy the very foundation of society called trust. You cannot trust banks, you cannot trust the government, and people suspect each other. That atmosphere now covers all of China. Who should I trust has become the most common question. The town's voice is gradually quieting. Complain and be watched. Protest and be detained. So people have no choice but to choose silence. The fear that speaking means erasure blankets society. In that silence, China slowly stops breathing. The most dangerous thing isn't the economy, but the loss of trust. No one believes the numbers the government announces. Job ads written by companies are known to be lies. I went to the interview and the salary was half. The job content was totally different. Such complaints are overflowing. The collapse of trust is the collapse of society. In China now, the entire society is changing into a nation that has lost its credit. The symbol of this is deposit freezing and remittance restrictions. Many people cannot freely withdraw their own money. Banks claim system problems or fraud prevention, but the reality is a funding crisis. One economic expert points out, banks don't want to let funds out because liquidity is depleted. This is deposit freezing in a legal form. In short, national assets are already being used as life support for the state, and the vicious cycle of suppressing citizen anxiety with surveillance continues. The number of surveillance cameras is world-leading. There are eyes everywhere, voices everywhere, and people's lives are entirely recorded. But still, citizens raise their voices. Return my money, return my life, return my future. Anger and sadness overflow on Chinese social media like Weibo and Douyin. But those posts are deleted within a few hours, and the next day, new voices of despair are posted again. It is as if these screams, which keep getting deleted, represent the reality of China today. The truth isn't told, so the world misunderstands. Chinese people hide such quiet anger in their hearts, and they say this: when you can no longer trust the bank, that is when you can no longer trust the country. This phrase represents China today most accurately. Credit is the foundation. When that collapses, no amount of economic growth or numerical success has any meaning. Now, China is entering a new stage, a superpower that has lost trust. But there lies a lesson we should learn. It is to support the strength of trust rather than the strength of the economy. No matter how big a city you build, without people's trust, the nation crumbles. Conversely, if there is trust, any country can stand up. Now, China stands at that fork in the road. Will this country end as an empire of silence or become a nation of regeneration? It is not the government, but the citizens themselves who will give that answer. Next time, we will again report the reality you don't know. Thank you.